9 ancient discoveries that forced the world to rethink history. There are skeletons that lay undisturbed for 6,000 years, until modern humans accidentally unearthed them and discovered the horrifying evidence of an ancient massacre. There are mummies wrapped tightly in tree bark beneath layers of permafrost, as if someone had deliberately tried to ensure that secret would never be revealed. There is a treasure of gold and silver, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, lying deep beneath a river in China for more than 300 years, tied to the legend of a notorious bandit king in history. And there is also a 47-million-year-old fossil discovered in Germany that led scientists to believe they may have found the missing link directly connected to the origins of humankind. But the most terrifying thing is this: the deeper humanity digs into the past, the more we realize that history may be completely different from what we were taught. Because beneath the earth, inside ancient tombs, lost manuscripts, and forgotten cities, countless secrets still remain unsolved to this day. Hello, and welcome back to the Ancient History channel. In today's video, we're going to explore 9 of the most mysterious and shocking archaeological discoveries ever found around the world. From incredibly well-preserved medieval mummies, to ancient underground tombs filled with strange inscriptions in Sudan, to the skeleton of a gigantic 13-ton creature believed to have once been hunted by ancient humans. But that's not all. You'll also uncover medical secrets hidden for nearly 2,000 years inside ancient books, mysterious mass graves in Europe, and even a sunken treasure beneath a river that forced archaeologists to spend months draining the water just to reach it. Every discovery on this list is more than just an ancient relic. It feels like a missing puzzle piece that is forcing humanity to look at history in a completely different way. So, are you ready to explore these mysteries with me? If you are, then let's begin right now. The heartless skeletons of a married couple reveal a terrifying Renaissance ritual in France. Did you know that during medieval and Renaissance Europe, there were burial rituals so bizarre that even modern scientists were shocked when they uncovered them? And in France, one such story came to light. An archaeological excavation revealed the mysterious tale of a wealthy married couple who died hundreds of years ago. But the most horrifying detail was that both skeletons were missing their hearts. The story began when researchers from the University of Toulouse conducted excavations of ancient tombs connected to Renaissance-era nobility. During their investigation, they discovered the remains of Toussaint de Perrien and his wife, Louise de Kengo, 2 individuals buried about 7 years apart and laid to rest in locations nearly 125 miles away from each other. According to historical records, Toussaint de Perrien was a patron of religious orders in the city of Rennes, located in the Brittany region of France. He died on August 30th, 1649, inside the very monastery to which he had devoted much of his life. 7 years later, in 1656, his wife Louise de Kengo passed away at the age of 65. But what astonished archaeologists was not their social status. It was what they found inside the coffins. When Louise's tomb was opened, scientists noticed that she had been buried in remarkably elegant clothing. She wore a black coat and a veil similar to those worn by Catholic nuns of that era, suggesting she was a woman of deep religious faith. However, inside the coffin was something far stranger. Next to her body sat a heart-shaped metal box. According to the inscription engraved on its surface, the container held the heart of her husband, Toussaint de Perrien. Just hearing that is enough to send chills down your spine. It meant that after his death, the husband's heart had been removed from his body and placed inside his wife's coffin. But the story did not end there. When experts examined Louise's remains, they discovered a large cross-shaped incision across her chest. The mark indicated that her heart had also been surgically removed after death. Strangely, Louise's heart was completely missing, and to this day, no one knows where it ended up. Based on this evidence, researchers proposed a shocking theory. They believe that among wealthy French nobles during the Renaissance, there may have existed a special ritual known as a heart exchange. According to this ritual, after a husband and wife died, the wife's heart would be placed in the husband's coffin, while the husband's heart would rest inside the wife's tomb. The ritual is believed to have appeared around the year 1495, yet it was almost never clearly documented in history until this archaeological discovery was published in the journal PLOS I. Researchers believe the ritual carried both deep religious and emotional meaning. People of that time believed that exchanging hearts would allow married couples to remain together forever, and reunite in the afterlife. It may sound romantic at first, but when you imagine human hearts being removed from bodies and placed inside someone else's coffin, it becomes impossible not to feel disturbed. And I think you probably feel the same way. Even more unsettling, while investigating the monastery where Toussaint died, researchers discovered 3 additional heart-shaped metal containers crafted in the years 1626, 1684, and 1685. This suggests that the strange ritual may once have been fairly common among wealthy Catholic nobles in Renaissance France. According to scientists, these heart containers were placed inside monasteries so relatives could visit and pray for the souls of the deceased. At the time, many French Catholics believed that without regular prayers, the souls of the dead could suffer torment in hell. Because of this, the heart, considered the center of a person's soul and emotions, became the most sacred object in post-death rituals. Nearly 400 years ago, inside the ancient monasteries of France, wealthy nobles may have carried out heart exchange ceremonies in the hope of remaining united forever, even after death. Was it love, religious devotion, or a deeply unsettling spiritual ritual? Even today, history still cannot provide a completely clear answer. But this discovery proves that people of the past practiced burial rituals so strange and haunting that they go far beyond anything most of us could imagine today. 6,000-year-old mass grave in France reveals the horrifying secret of a hand-chopping ritual that shocked researchers. Around 6,000 years ago, in what is now a peaceful region of France, a horrifying event took place. One so disturbing that if it appeared in a movie today, many people would assume it was fictional. That terrifying scene was reconstructed from an ancient burial pit discovered in the city of Bergheim in eastern France. There, archaeologist Fanny Chanal and her team from the Antilla Archaeological Institute uncovered 7 human skeletons piled on top of one another, including 2 men, 1 woman, and 4 children. In addition to the bodies, they also found the skull of an infant along with crushed fragments of hand bones shattered into tiny pieces. But the detail that truly sent chills through everyone was the mysterious severed left arms found at the bottom of the pit. Researchers believe these individuals may have been killed during an attack or a violent conflict that took place during the Neolithic period. After their deaths, their bodies were thrown into this massive circular pit. However, the real mystery lies in what was already there before the corpses were placed inside. At the bottom of the pit were several left arms that had been cleanly severed using axes or other sharp weapons. To this day, no one knows exactly who those arms belonged to. Archaeologists also reported that one of the male skeletons showed signs of a devastating skull injury, suggesting he may have been beaten to death with a heavy object. That same skeleton was also missing its left arm. Even so, researchers have not yet been able to determine whether the missing arm is among the pile of bones found in the pit. What makes the discovery even more disturbing is that the scattered hand bones found at the bottom suggest the hands attached to those severed arms had been deliberately smashed apart. Hearing this, many people naturally ask the same question. Why did the attackers specifically target the left arms? Was it a wartime ritual, a form of revenge, or some kind of human sacrifice ceremony? According to Fanny Chanal and her team, the severed left arms may have been treated as trophies taken after battle. In other words, this site could represent evidence of a brutal conflict between Neolithic communities. After the fighting ended, the victors may have cut off their enemies' arms as a display of power or as part of a victory ritual. Of course, this remains only a theory, but if it is correct, it suggests that prehistoric humans may have been far more violent and ruthless than we once imagined. Radiocarbon analysis revealed that the skeletons date back approximately 6,000 years to the Neolithic era, the period when humans first began forming early agricultural communities. During that time, the dead were commonly buried in large circular pits dug into the ground. However, until now, scientists had never fully understood the true purpose of these pits, and the discovery at Bergheim completely changed that understanding. According to Chanal, this is the first time in archaeological history that researchers have found clear evidence showing that Neolithic circular pits were used to bury victims of violence and armed conflict. In other words, people living 6,000 years ago did not merely farm and build communities. They also fought wars, killed one another, and may have practiced terrifying rituals after battle. What makes the story even more fascinating is that about 3 years before this pit was discovered, archaeologists had already excavated 60 other circular pits in Bergheim. Among them, 13 pits contained human remains or scattered human bones. This suggests the area may once have been the site of repeated conflicts or mysterious rituals spanning multiple generations. Alongside the human remains, scientists also uncovered numerous ancient artifacts, including shell jewelry, a stone spearhead, pig jawbones, and even 2 hair skeletons. These objects may have been connected to burial ceremonies, sacrificial rituals, or traces of everyday life within the ancient community. And because of these discoveries, many researchers now believe this land may once have been the setting for massacres, wars, or bloody rituals that were never recorded in human history. Truly terrifying to think about, isn't it? The remains of a 13-ton giant superbeast. Hunted by ancient humans, a terrifying mystery in Israel. An elephant tusk measuring more than 8 feet long, nearly the length of a small car, belonging to an ancient creature that weighed as much as 13 tons and stood nearly 13 feet tall, once roamed across the Near East 500,000 years ago. And what makes this even more chilling is the possibility that this massive beast may have been hunted and killed by an ancient human species. Sounds like something straight out of a prehistoric movie, doesn't it? But this is actually a real discovery recently announced by archaeologists in Israel. Several years ago, during excavations in the Near East region of Israel, a research team from the Israel Antiquities Authority, also known as the IAA, together with researchers from Tel Aviv University, uncovered an extremely rare fossil belonging to the extinct straight-tusked elephant, a gigantic species that disappeared around 400,000 years ago. However, the newly excavated specimen was determined to be approximately 500,000 years old and is considered the largest complete fossilized tusk ever discovered in Israel and throughout the Near East. When most people hear the word elephant, they immediately picture today's massive African elephants. But believe me, compared to this ancient creature, even modern African elephants would have looked small. Scientists say the straight-tusked elephant could grow up to about 13 feet tall and weigh around 13 tons, roughly twice the weight of the largest modern African elephants. Its tusks alone could reach lengths of more than 8 feet, enough to make anyone standing nearby feel tiny beside what looked like a prehistoric tank. What makes this even more fascinating is that these enormous creatures once lived in the region of Israel as far back as 800,000 years ago. They dominated the land for hundreds of thousands of years before suddenly vanishing from Earth around 400,000 years ago, leaving behind countless unanswered mysteries. And the tusk that was just discovered may be one of the key clues that could help modern scientists better understand this mysterious extinction. But the story does not end with the fossil discovery itself. During the excavation, archaeologists also uncovered additional bones, including part of a skull, ribs, and teeth belonging to the animal. Even more importantly, lying beside those remains were numerous man-made tools, including stone axes and ancient cutting instruments. According to Dr. Ionir Malevsky from the Israel Antiquities Authority, this detail led researchers to propose a shocking theory. This gigantic creature may have actually been hunted by ancient humans. And that is where the truly terrifying mystery begins. You see, 500,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, modern humans like us, did not yet exist on Earth. That means the beings that confronted this 13-ton monster must have belonged to another ancient human species. They had no guns, no metal weapons, and no modern machines. The only things they possessed were stone axes, primitive spears, and collective teamwork. Yet somehow, they were still capable of hunting one of the most terrifying creatures of prehistoric times. Just imagine that scene for a moment. A group of primitive humans standing in an ancient wilderness, facing a creature nearly as tall as a 2-story house. One stomp of its foot or a single swing of its tusk could easily crush anything in its path. And yet they still dared to hunt it. That thought alone is enough to make this discovery astonishing, isn't it? Right now, the massive tusk is being preserved with extreme care by paleontologists. After lying underground for hundreds of thousands of years, the fossil could rapidly deteriorate once exposed again to air and sunlight. Experts have even compared it to evaporating into the sky if it is not handled properly. And perhaps the most intriguing part is that the excavation site has not yet been fully explored. Researchers believe that beneath those ancient layers of earth, there may still be more hidden evidence of gigantic prehistoric hunts, places where ancient humans once directly confronted the super beasts that ruled the earth. A tusk more than 8 feet long, a creature weighing 13 tons, and possible evidence of human hunting from 500,000 years ago. All of this makes the discovery in Israel far more than an ordinary archaeological excavation. It feels more like a doorway that has suddenly opened, allowing us to glimpse a brutal prehistoric world that vanished from human history long ago. What do you think? Do you see this discovery the same way? Or do you have a different theory about it? If so, don't hesitate to leave a comment below and share your thoughts with everyone. 97 skeletons inside a house of death in China reveal a terrifying prehistoric pandemic from 5,000 years ago. At the ancient Hamen Mangha site, one of the best preserved prehistoric settlements ever discovered in China, archaeologists uncovered a small house measuring only about 215 square feet. But you know what truly left everyone speechless? It wasn't the house itself, but what was packed inside it. There were 97 human skeletons. From children and teenagers to the elderly, all of them were crammed together inside the tiny space, as if they had been forced into the house at the same time. Through dating analysis, experts determined that these people were ancient residents who once lived in the prehistoric village of Hamen Mangha in northern China. What's even more shocking is that there was no evidence of a major battle or outside attack. Instead, every clue pointed towards something far more terrifying: an ancient epidemic. According to archaeologists, a deadly infectious disease, possibly similar to an early form of plague, may have suddenly spread throughout the community. The outbreak caused deaths to rise so rapidly that the villagers no longer had enough time to bury each person individually as they normally would. In desperation, they were forced to place all of the bodies inside the small house in the middle of the village in an attempt to prevent the disease from spreading further. And the way the skeletons were positioned inside the house tells the story of that horrifying moment. On the northern side of the house, many of the skeletons remained relatively intact, suggesting that the first bodies may have been laid down carefully. But farther toward the south, everything became chaotic. Skulls, arm bones, and leg bones were piled on top of one another in layers, as if the deaths had happened so quickly that the living no longer had the strength to organize or properly bury the dead. Even more disturbing, researchers discovered blackened burn marks and collapsed wooden beams in one corner of the house. They believe that after the house became filled with bodies, a fire may have broken out. Burning support beams collapsed onto the skeletons, crushing and disturbing many of the remains for thousands of years afterward. However, what makes this discovery truly significant is not just the number of skeletons, but what it reveals about prehistoric human life. Throughout the entire Hamen Mangha site, archaeologists also uncovered farming tools, pottery, and hunting weapons. These findings show that this was once a fairly stable and developed community. They knew how to farm, hunt, and build a long-term life in the freezing lands of the north. But then, after the appearance of a mysterious epidemic, nearly everything disappeared. The most chilling part is that even though these people lived 5,000 years ago, they still faced fears that feel painfully familiar today: disease, isolation, and the helplessness of watching death spread from one family to another. And perhaps that is why the small house at Hamen Mangha is more than just an archaeological site. It feels like a terrifying snapshot of human history, a place that still preserves the final moments of an entire ancient community wiped out by a deadly epidemic. You see, disease really is terrifying, isn't it? 47-million-year-old fossil, discovered in Germany, may rewrite the origins of humanity. For hundreds of years, humanity has searched for the answer to one of the greatest questions in evolutionary history: where did we truly come from? And scientists were no exception. That is why they spent countless years researching and searching for the answer to that mystery. Finally, after a long time, they found a clue. Deep inside an ancient volcanic crater at the Messel Pit site in Germany, researchers discovered a strange 47-million-year-old fossil, so extraordinary that they believed it could be the missing link between humans and ancient primates. The fossil was named Darwinius masilli, but the world came to know it simply as Ida. What made Ida one of the most shocking discoveries in paleontology was not only its incredible age of 47 million years, but also the almost unbelievable level of preservation of the fossil itself. Researchers confirmed that Ida was preserved up to 95%, making it far more complete than most primate fossils ever discovered before. To put that into perspective, most ancient fossils found by scientists are usually just a few teeth, fragments of bone, or incomplete skulls. But with Ida, nearly the entire body remained visible after lying buried deep underground for tens of millions of years. The fossil was actually discovered back in 1983 at Messel Pit, a site located in the German state of Hesse. The area was once the crater of an ancient volcano measuring about 1 mile wide and is famous for its unique oil shale deposits, which preserve fossils from the Eocene epoch in extraordinary detail. However, Ida's journey was almost as mysterious as the skeleton itself. After being excavated, fossil hunters split the specimen into 2 separate parts and sold them off individually. A smaller section was altered and partially reconstructed to appear more complete before eventually ending up in a private museum in Wyoming, United States. Years later, researcher Jens L. Franzen discovered unusual signs of restoration on that portion of the fossil. Meanwhile, the more complete section eventually became part of the collection at the Natural History Museum of the University of Oslo. It was there that an international team of scientists, led by Dr. Jorn Hurum from the University of Oslo, secretly studied Ida for 2 straight years in an effort to uncover the true origins of this remarkable creature. The research findings were later published in the scientific journal PLOS One and quickly shocked the world. Scientists determined that Ida was a young female primate that died at around 9 months old. Her body measured about 3 feet long, or nearly 1 meter. What amazed researchers most was that Ida possessed characteristics positioned somewhere between primitive primates and the evolutionary line that eventually led to modern humans. Simply put, she seemed to stand somewhere in the middle of the evolutionary tree. Ida had opposable thumbs like humans, allowing for precise gripping while climbing and picking fruit. Her forward-facing eyes created 3D vision for judging distance, a key trait found in modern primates. Ida's nails also resembled human fingernails rather than the claws seen in lemurs. Even more importantly, Ida lacked both the tooth comb and the grooming claw, 2 defining features commonly found in ancient lemurs. Instead, her dental structure was more similar to monkeys and apes. Another detail that captured enormous scientific attention was the talus bone in her foot. This bone structure closely resembled the talus bone found in modern humans. Because of this, experts believed it could serve as important evidence linking Ida to the evolutionary branch that eventually led to humanity. Professor Philip Gingerich from the University of Michigan even described Ida as the Rosetta Stone of paleontology, suggesting that she could be the key to decoding the evolutionary origins of primates. But perhaps the most haunting part of Ida's story is the way she died. CT scans and X-rays revealed that Ida's left wrist had once been severely fractured and was still healing. Scientists believe that while approaching Lake Messel for water, Ida may have been overcome by carbon dioxide released from volcanic activity. Because her wrist was injured, she could not escape. Her small body eventually sank to the bottom of the ancient lake, and it was the unique environment beneath that lake that preserved Ida's skeleton in astonishing condition for 47 million years. Remarkably, traces of food were still found inside the fossilized remains of her stomach. Researchers discovered that Ida mainly ate fruit, leaves, and seeds before her death. When the research was officially announced in 2009, renowned broadcaster and naturalist David Attenborough made a statement that captured the world's attention. "This creature is going to show us our connection with all the rest of the mammals." The link they said was missing is no longer missing. And even today, Ida remains one of the most important fossils ever discovered, not only because of her astonishing age of 47 million years, but because she may hold the answer to the very origins of humanity itself. Isn't that fascinating? The $500 million treasure hidden beneath a Chinese river, the 300-year-old secret of the Ming Dynasty's Bandit King. For hundreds of years, people in Sichuan province, China, have passed down stories about a massive treasure that mysteriously disappeared beneath the Min River, a 457-mile-long river flowing through central Sichuan and one of China's most important inland waterways. According to legend, thousands of gold and silver bars, along with priceless jewels, sank together with an entire fleet of ships during a bloody battle at the end of the Ming Dynasty. Of course, many people believed it was nothing more than folklore until archaeologists actually uncovered what was hidden beneath the riverbed, and what they discovered far exceeded every rumor. On March 20th, 2017, Chinese archaeologists officially announced one of the most shocking excavations in the country's history. Near the mouth of the Min River, close to Jiangku Town in Pongshan County, Sichuan Province in southwestern China, archaeologists uncovered more than 10,000 gold, silver, and bronze artifacts dating back over 300 years. What made the discovery even more astonishing was that the entire treasure hoard had been buried nearly 16 feet beneath the riverbed. The excavation site was located about 31 miles south of Chengdu, the capital city of Sichuan Province. But unlike ordinary land excavations, this mission presented a challenge almost unheard of in Chinese archaeology. The river current was far too powerful, so in order to reach the treasure, researchers had to construct a massive cofferdam covering nearly 215,000 square feet to block the water flow. After the barrier was completed, 20 high-powered pumps worked continuously for 4 straight months just to drain the excavation area. The preparation effort alone showed that something incredibly important might be hidden beneath the river. And that suspicion proved correct. As layers of deep mud were removed, countless valuable artifacts gradually emerged before the eyes of archaeologists. Ancient coins, gold and silver jewelry, and iron weapons such as swords, spears, and battle knives had remained buried in sand and mud beneath the river for more than 3 centuries. According to Gao Delun, director of the Archaeological Research and Cultural Heritage Institute, the total value of the recovered artifacts was estimated at around $500 million. Among the thousands of relics, one object in particular stunned archaeologists the most: a pure gold seal weighing nearly 18 pounds and made from approximately 95% solid gold. The seal measured about 4 by 4 inches, and its handle was crafted in the shape of an exquisitely detailed turtle. Inscribed on its surface were the words, "Treasure of the King of Shu." Even though the artifact had broken into 4 pieces, experts were still amazed by the extraordinary craftsmanship. The raised carvings and intricate details revealed the incredible skill of ancient artisans. Yet the greatest mystery was connected to what appeared at first to be nothing more than a worthless piece of wood. During the excavation, scientists discovered a hollowed-out wooden log about 3 feet long, buried roughly 8 feet deep beneath the mud. Inside the log were 10 ancient silver ingots. The silver bars were engraved with the inscription, "10th year of the Chongzhen reign, 50 taels of silver, silversmith Zhang Guo King." According to Wu Tianwen, director of the Pongshan Cultural Relics Management Office, the object was actually a qinggang staff, a famous treasure-hiding device recorded in Chinese history. Historical records state that the qinggang staff was a special tool used by Zhang Xianzhong, the notorious rebel leader of the late Ming dynasty. He ordered wooden logs to be hollowed out, sealed with iron at both ends, and filled with silver so that treasure could be transported and hidden in secret. And once the name Zhang Xianzhong entered the story, the mystery behind the treasure suddenly became much clearer. According to historical accounts, in 1644, Zhang Xianzhong led his forces into Sichuan, slaughtering wealthy merchants and seizing enormous fortunes from them. The amount of gold and silver he accumulated was said to be so vast that legend claimed there were 24 rooms filled entirely with gold and silver bars. It was even said that he once hosted a massive treasure competition in Chengdu simply to display his immense wealth. But in 1646, as his fleet transported the treasure through the Liaohu Shoal area near Jiangku Town, Ming dynasty forces launched a surprise attack. The violent battle caused most of the ships to sink to the bottom of the river, along with all the gold, silver, and jewels aboard them. From that moment on, Zhang Xianzhong's treasure became a legend that survived for more than 300 years. And now, after centuries resting silently beneath the waters of the Min River in Sichuan Province, part of that secret has finally been brought back into the light. Ancient tomb, containing the nearly perfectly preserved body and official robes of China's Baozheng of the Ming dynasty. For nearly 600 years, no one knew that beneath a road in Taikang County, Henan Province, China, a Ming dynasty official had been resting silently in the darkness of history. Then one day, during the construction of a water pipeline, the sound of excavators echoed across the site when the ancient ground suddenly collapsed, revealing traces of an old tomb that had never been recorded in modern historical documents. At first, workers thought they had simply uncovered an old foundation or ordinary layers of bricks and stone. But as they dug deeper, ancient bricks, stone tablets, and the structure of a burial chamber gradually appeared, making everyone realize that this place had been buried by time for centuries. Authorities and archaeologists were immediately called to the scene, and when the tomb was finally opened, everyone was stunned by what they saw inside. An ancient body along with Ming Dynasty official robes that had remained almost perfectly preserved for hundreds of years. According to inscriptions carved on the tombstone, the owner of the tomb was Gu Pu, a famous incorruptible official of China's Ming Dynasty. He once held the position of Right Censor-in-Chief, an important government role responsible for supervising and criticizing the imperial court when necessary. What made him especially remarkable was that, in Chinese history, Gu Pu was often compared to Bao Zheng because of his rare honesty and integrity. People of that era recalled that during court meetings, unless absolutely necessary, Gu Pu rarely sat together with other officials. He always chose a separate seat for himself, keeping his distance from flattery and political factions within the imperial court. Because of this habit, he was even given a unique nickname, Gu the Lone Sitter, meaning the official who always sat alone. Perhaps it was precisely because of his quiet and honorable life that this discovery fascinated so many people. After nearly 600 years, the body of this Ming Dynasty official was still lying inside the tomb together with official robes that had largely retained their original form. For archaeologists, this is extraordinarily rare. Normally, bodies buried for long periods quickly decompose due to humidity, bacteria, and changes in the surrounding soil environment. Fabric clothing also almost never survives intact after centuries underground. Yet inside the tomb in Taikang County, many details of the official robes were still clearly recognizable. This suggests that the tomb may have been built with a highly specialized structure designed to prevent air and moisture from entering for hundreds of years. As soon as the news was released, the discovery quickly attracted attention across China, not only because of the astonishing preservation of the body, but also because of the identity of the man buried there. Gu Pu was born in 1376 and died in 1446 during the early Ming Dynasty. This was a period when the Chinese imperial court placed great emphasis on bureaucracy and legal administration. At a time when many officials were accused of corruption or factionalism, someone as famously honest as Gu Pu naturally became deeply respected by the people. Authorities in Taikang County later confirmed that the site was indeed the ancient tomb of a Ming Dynasty official from the Gu family. Interestingly, even today, many descendants of the Gu family still live in Taikang County. Because of that, many local residents felt as though the history of their ancestors had suddenly awakened once again from beneath the earth. And from there, many questions began to emerge. Why was Gu Pu's body preserved so well? Were there still other secrets hidden inside the tomb? And could the accompanying artifacts and documents help historians better understand political life during the Ming Dynasty? Even now, the ancient tomb in Taikang County continues to be studied. But perhaps what moves people the most is not the material value or the scale of the burial site. Instead, it is the feeling that a historical figure who lived nearly 600 years ago has somehow been brought back into the modern world. In the endless flow of time, some names slowly fade from history, but sometimes, all it takes is a single accidental excavation beneath the earth for an ancient story to come alive once again. Isn't archaeology incredible? The 2,000-year-old lost medical remedy hidden inside an ancient book. You know, some of humanity's greatest secrets are not hidden inside pyramids, tombs, or treasure vaults filled with gold and silver. Sometimes, they are simply buried within old books covered in the dust of time. And occasionally, all it takes is a quick glance at faded symbols on ancient parchment for an entire medical tradition lost for nearly 2,000 years to suddenly come back to life. A perfect example of this is the story of Dr. Grigory Kessel, a researcher specializing in ancient Syriac manuscripts at the Philipps University of Marburg. One day, while examining a rare ancient book in the library of a wealthy private collector in Baltimore, he noticed something unusual. At first glance, the manuscript looked like nothing more than an old religious text, similar to thousands of other ancient documents. But then Kessel suddenly realized that the drawings and handwriting looked strangely familiar. He remembered that just 3 weeks earlier, at the library of Harvard University, he had seen a page containing nearly identical symbols. That moment sparked a search that would span multiple countries, some of the oldest libraries in the world, and ultimately reveal a medical secret hidden for centuries. After returning to Harvard to investigate, Kessel began comparing page sizes, ink marks, handwriting styles, and even the faint traces hidden beneath the scraped sheep parchment. Eventually, he confirmed that the page at Harvard had originally belonged to the very same ancient manuscript now located in Baltimore. But there was a problem. The book was still missing several pages. From that point on, Dr. Kessel began an obsessive search through 10 major libraries around the world, known for preserving ancient Syriac texts. At times, he carefully examined online manuscript archives page by page. Other times, he traveled directly to the libraries himself in search of the missing fragments. Little by little, the lost pieces began to reappear. One page was discovered at a Christian monastery on Mount Sinai, home to one of the oldest libraries on Earth. Another page was found in the National Library of France. Yet another fragment surfaced within the Vatican Library. Even so, 3 mysterious pages remain missing to this day. But do you know what truly shocked scholars? It wasn't just the strange journey of the manuscript itself. It was what was hidden beneath the visible text. It turned out that the ancient book was made from scraped sheep parchment, a recycled writing material commonly used during the Middle Ages. In the 11th century, Syriac monks had scraped away the older text so they could write religious hymns over the top. However, even though the original writing had been erased, modern spectral imaging technology was still able to detect the faint hidden characters underneath. And what researchers uncovered stunned the academic world. Beneath the religious writings was an ancient Syriac medical text translated from the works of Galen, the famous Greek doctor and philosopher who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. The text turned out to be part of Simple Drugs, Methods of Preparation and Effects, a medical work once considered essential reading for physicians throughout the ancient world for centuries. According to experts, the manuscript contains numerous records about medicinal plants and ancient healing methods. Galen described roots used to treat throat illnesses and even recommended hemp as a remedy for ear pain that supposedly did not cause bloating. Today, those ideas may sound strange, but at the time, they represented some of the most advanced medical knowledge in existence. What makes the discovery even more important is that this Syriac manuscript may have been one of the earliest translations created during the 6th century, when Middle Eastern Christian communities translated Greek texts into Syriac. According to Dr. Kessel, translating highly complex medical terminology into a completely different language during ancient times was an extraordinary achievement. The translators essentially had to invent entirely new systems of medical vocabulary. These Syriac translations later became the bridge that carried Greek medical knowledge into the Islamic world and across the ancient Middle East. The Baltimore manuscript itself had actually been sold to a private collector back in 2002. Then, in 2009, it was loaned to the Walters Art Museum for research. There, a team of specialists used ultra-high-resolution digital cameras and spectral imaging technology to photograph every page, revealing the erased writing hidden beneath the parchment for hundreds of years. And thanks to modern technology, part of a medical tradition lost for nearly 2 millennia has finally begun to return to the light. Although many of Galen's theories are now considered incorrect, such as the belief that the human body was controlled by 4 bodily humors: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. During his lifetime, those ideas formed the foundation of ancient medicine. And perhaps what makes this discovery truly special is not whether those remedies are still useful today, but the fact that they help humanity understand how ancient people fought disease using every piece of knowledge they had. Medieval mummy, wrapped in tree bark, shocks the archaeological world. In the freezing lands of northern Russia, where snow and ice cover the ground year-round, there lies an ancient cemetery that had been almost forgotten by the world for centuries. There were no pyramids, no giant tombs, and no massive stone statues. Yet this very place concealed one of the strangest archaeological mysteries of the medieval era. A body wrapped tightly in layers of birch bark had remained buried deep beneath the permafrost for hundreds of years. This remarkable discovery was uncovered by archaeologists near the village of Salakard at a medieval burial ground known as Zeliny Yar. According to researchers, the mysterious remains may belong to a child or teenager who lived sometime during the 12th or 13th century. But what truly shocked experts was not the age of the remains. It was the way the body had been buried. You see, when archaeologists excavated the frozen ground beneath the cemetery, they discovered a strange cocoon measuring about 4.3 feet long and roughly 12 inches wide. The entire exterior was covered in birch bark, while inside, a thin layer of copper wrapped tightly around the body itself. This type of burial had almost never been seen anywhere else in the region. According to specialists, the copper layer created a natural barrier that prevented bacteria and oxygen from reaching the body inside. Combined with Siberia's permanently freezing temperatures, the corpse gradually dried out naturally and may have become mummified over time. In other words, nature itself may have accidentally transformed this site into a giant embalming chamber hidden beneath Russia's permafrost. Alexander Gusev, head of the regional archaeological research team, stated that the body inside had been wrapped with extraordinary care. According to him, if the remains truly are a complete mummy, then the head and skull may still be exceptionally well preserved after hundreds of years. That possibility has made archaeologists extremely excited, because for many years the Zeleny Yar Cemetery has been considered one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in Siberia. Previously, archaeologists had uncovered 34 ancient graves at the site. Among them were 5 mummies covered in copper and wrapped in reindeer, beaver, or wolverine fur, a bizarre burial ritual rarely seen in other cultures. No one knows exactly why ancient people used these materials to wrap the dead. However, some researchers believe the ritual may have been reserved for special members of society at the time. Another theory suggests that the fur and copper carried spiritual significance, helping protect the souls of the deceased on their journey into the afterlife. There was also another fascinating detail. Near the mysterious cocoon, experts discovered several bronze artifacts designed in a style strikingly similar to ancient Persian craftsmanship. This detail has led archaeologists to suspect that the Zeleny Yar region may once have had cultural or trade connections with Persia hundreds of years ago, something almost unimaginable for such a remote and frozen region in northern Russia. However, this same site also became the reason archaeological excavations were completely halted for years. In 2002, after several excavation campaigns, local residents strongly opposed further digging at the ancient cemetery. They believed the area was sacred ancestral ground and that disturbing the graves would disrupt the spirits of the dead. Since then, archaeological activity at the site had nearly stopped entirely, until the discovery of this latest birch bark cocoon. At present, the unusual artifact is being stored inside a specialized refrigeration unit at the Shemenovsky Museum to prevent the remains inside from deteriorating when exposed to warmer outside temperatures. Archaeologists plan to open the cocoon on July 15th to determine whether it truly contains a fully preserved mummy. If confirmed, it would become the first mummy discovered in this region since 2002. And that brings us to the end of our journey exploring 9 ancient mysteries that shocked the world. Discoveries that forced scientists, archaeologists, and even modern humanity to look at history in a completely different way. From mummies buried beneath frozen ice for thousands of years, to underground tombs filled with mysterious symbols, to skeletal remains revealing horrifying ancient massacres. All of these discoveries show that humanity's past still holds countless secrets waiting to be uncovered. Some mysteries seemed as though they had vanished forever with time, yet sometimes a single accidental excavation is enough to change everything we once believed to be true. And who knows, somewhere beneath the ground right now, there may still be undiscovered ruins silently waiting for modern humans to awaken them after thousands of years of sleep. Do you think so too? If you do, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. And don't forget to give ancient history a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any other incredible discoveries. But for now, goodbye and see you next time.